Joining us from Yahoo Sports is our friend Dan Wetzel. Quite the story yesterday that you and your colleagues popped out there. Where do things stand right now with the investigation into my alma mater, Dan Wetzel?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you called. I wanted to do a wellness check on you yesterday. How are we?
You know what?
Right?
I'll be straight up with you. Obviously concerned and curious, to be straight up, as to what's happening and what is fact, what is fiction, what is gray area, what is what everyone else does, what is exceptional, as to what's happening. So I'll give you the floor on that, Dan.
Okay. Well, I think if you get rid of all the smoke and the anonymous comments and all the different stuff, right?
Yeah.
It boils down to a few questions. So you're allowed to steal signs. You're allowed to figure out signs. There is no expectation of privacy when you're waving a giant billboard, a big poster board in front of 80,000 people and a bunch of national television. So you can steal all the signs you want. The issue here is, best we can tell, because the NCAA hasn't released any of the actual details, did Michigan acquire information while having somebody, and this is the key part, at opponents' games, previous games, off campus? You are not allowed to scout off campus in person. But that rule was written in 1994. That rule does not specify who can't scout. The presumption would be assistant coaches. Now we would have analysts. We would have anybody who worked in the athletics department, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what this appears to be is you could have just Rich Eisen could go and watch the USC game and then send a report and take some videos or take a picture of the sideline and send it to Michigan and say, hey, this is what I saw. And if they ever play USC, they would be able to decipher that information. Would you be, in that case, a representative of the university? Which would the NCAA bylaw account to you? Where would this all go? The whole point is the bit. Now, if you read Harbaugh's statement very closely, it says, I had no idea any of this going on. I didn't direct any of my staff or any of these things. The idea that staffers were going or anybody at the athletic department, highly, highly unlikely. It would require, the athletic director being in on it, the accounting department that's paying travel reimbursement, all that. So it's this other people are maybe acquiring this information. That is sort of a theory of the case, and that's what the NCAA is kind of alluding to. Who are these people? Are they Michigan reps or not? That would be a big thing. How would the NCAA rule on that? Did Harbaugh know that was going on, or is it just this low-level assistant, Connor Stallion, who ESPN has cited as the person of interest, who was a naval officer, a Marine officer, went to the U.S. Naval Academy, was technically a recruiting analyst, but had developed a reputation around the Big Ten as the guy who could steal the signs. Almost every team has got someone trying to steal the signs. Now, again, if you steal the signs because you're watching TV and you figure it out, or you're standing on your own sideline during the game and you figure it out, perfectly legal. Was this guy sending his friends to do it, and Harbaugh and above didn't know? And he was just acting on his own because he's a young guy, he's getting a ton of recognition and a lot of benefit from it. And he wants to be good at his job, and he's not running it up the flagpole. It's not a guy who's going to be meeting with Jim Harbaugh for days, hours each day or anything like that. And they just thought, hey, this guy's really good at watching the video and ascertaining these signs. So those are the questions. Who was doing this scouting off campus? Do they even count? What did Harbaugh know? Was this guy just acting on his own, or was someone else just acting on his own? Did any of the higher-ups, a coordinator or somebody else, know anything? And that's where this case is going to end up boiling down to. All the other stuff is just a lot of people shouting right now.
And then, of course, it is the last question, Dan, is whatever was going on, how did that affect wins and losses? How did that actually get put into play?
They won't care about that. They won't care about
Why not? Isn't that the ultimate crux of it, Dan?
Because if you try to cheat and it doesn't work, you still tried to cheat.
Okay.
So, like, if this was the old days of college football, and you went and gave a brand new car to a crappy recruit, and he turned out not to be good, and you lost all the games.
I got it. Oh no, I hear you. Okay.
You still broke the rule.
I got you.
For Harbaugh's reputation, forget it. Just by letting this out there, his reputation is significantly damaged. No one's ever going to believe he didn't know. I mean, that's just the way it is. The NCAA made a very bold move by bringing this up. Now, they probably felt we have to alert these teams that there might be a competitive disadvantage and all that, but that would be something that would be weighed.
Yeah, but
whether or not you can prove people will always some segment will always believe, well, you only beat Ohio State because you knew their signals, even though the facts may not bear it. That's the problem with this kind of an allegation.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson stealing signs or souls. You know what I mean? Like, let's be straight up. But that said, if you do have an elaborate scheme, as the NCAA is letting people know, and as you point out, breaking the rules, you should be, called into account for it. But all that said, I mean, letting teams know this is a possibility. Every single blog you read, every single story you read is that Michigan was known for being really good at stealing your signs. I mean, Greg Schiano made not one but two highly veiled, at the time confusing, references to something in a halftime conversation with the Big Ten Network in a game, by the way, that he led 7-0 because of some remarkably successful, big play to break Michigan's defense in a way that Michigan's defense has not been broken all season long. You know what I mean? Like, so what's the point of letting people know about it if everyone kind of already assumes it? Dan? So and then how effective can it be? How effective can it be if everyone is knowing about it and switching up their signals?
I would think any coach that doesn't switch his signals up with great regularity is a bad football coach. It's certainly at that high level. I mean, there were very public stories of like Clemson playing Ohio State a couple years in the playoff and Ohio State huddling. They huddled more, I think, last year in the game against Michigan because they were worried about. Why wouldn't you be worried about this? You can't trust anybody. This is college football. You can't. It's football, right? They hold up the thing in front of their mouth so you can't read their lips. Like, this is what it is. So there's no. I agree with you all on that. These are the rules. You can't scout off campus. Were they really scouting, though? That's the question. If we found out that Michigan was sending 6 of their staff members somewhere, analysts or grad assistants or whatever, flying them around the country to watch games, that would be a significant violation, whether you agree that that should be a violation or not. That would be a significant violation.
Sure, right.
But if it's just 6 guys that kind of know this one low-level staffer, and I don't know that's the case at all.
No, I understand.
I'm running the gamut, right? So if Harbaugh's like, you go here, yeah, you're in a lot of trouble. If it may not be a vast conspiracy. It's usually conspiracies are pretty small. They're usually very tight because they don't last. So what if it's one guy who no one's paying any attention to and wants to paint himself off as the expert at cracking the code, and he's getting a little help to do it? That would be the kind of the swing. If you're a Michigan fan, maybe you hope that. But the NCAA rules have the rules. You're not allowed to scout. Are these guys scouts? Are they people with the university? Are they boosters? Are they just what are they? We have so little information on what the allegations are, and that's tough for Harbaugh. I don't think too many people are going to shed a tear for him, but it's hard to fight back when the allegation is so significant.
Well, then I guess
cheated.
Right. So the way to
you're a cheater. Well, in what way? We're not saying. Well, that's a tough go, but that's where he's at, and that's where the NCAA is at.
So in the 2 minutes I have left, the way to fight back is to say, okay, now that it's completely out there and everyone has been officially warned by the NCAA that this is potentially happening, and maybe to you, that they have now been given the heads up to do what you assume they should be doing anyway, which is switching up signals before playing any big opponent. That now they can go out there and say, here's us beating you straight up. If that is the way to go about it, or hold on a minute, this thing actually gets put to bed in some way, shape, or form by the NCAA, the Big Ten, in short order. What are the next steps in the couple minutes I have left here, Dan?
Yeah, it would have to be the continued investigation. Do they interview people? These things usually take a long time.
Yes.
So, like, the idea that they're just going to rule on this, and I mean, I've heard people, they'll get, banned from the playoff this year. They took 6 years on the Kansas basketball case. I think we're getting this done in 6 weeks. The literal legal argument of who counts as a prohibited figure to go scout off campus, that alone would take a long time to hash out. So there are already a ton of lawyers involved in this thing. So nothing's going to happen quickly. Would the NCAA come back and exonerate? Like if he's, you know what, it was just this one guy. I don't know, maybe not. Would they even be able to figure that out? Or would they be able to crack it and be like, look, we've got text messages and videos and all of that right away and release that? I don't know. We don't know where this is heading or going, but it's not as cut and dry, and there is a lot of just kind of there are some probable arguments that aren't. Jim Harbaugh, a guy who I've been told doesn't know how to log into a computer, is running a massive spy operation. Okay, now he's very smart at football, and maybe he is, but maybe he isn't. So, the first inclination when you hear this story, or first, heard about it, it's like, oh boy, sign stealing and all that. But again, it's complicated. So you get down to it, there's only going to be a couple questions that have to be answered, and none of those are really clear right now.
Dan, thanks for the time, as always. Greatly appreciated.
Good luck with it.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
That's Dan Wetzel, everybody, of Yahoo. Good luck with it. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.